I've been thinking a lot recently about why society is so divided. But one of the best insights, and I can't remember who it was or where I saw it, but it simply said, there are those who are awake and there are those who are asleep. And I thought, yeah, that's it. In its most simple and profound terms, that is where we are at the moment. You could add a third group to it, possibly, of those who are seemingly awake, but who aren't, but who are going against their conscience by not backing up their convictions with action. But anyway, those who are awake and those who are asleep. And for those of us who are awake, this is the most frustrating, annoying, concerning time at the moment, particularly frustrating. And anyone who is awake, and you'll know what I mean when I say awake, will know what I mean when I say it's frustrating. And you may be angry, you may be annoyed, upset. Why can't others see what you can see? So that's what this video is about. I've got 10 reasons here why, if you're awake, why you may be awake. 10 reasons that underpin a spiritual awareness, if you'd like to call it that. So before I start on this video, if you do like my content, please hit the subscribe button and then hit the notifications bell so you'll always be notified whenever I do an upload. Okay, so reason number one why you may be awake rather than asleep. It's the one that I can't really explain actually, so let's start off with that one. It's intuition. One of the cleverest ploys and most cruel ploys that the propagandists have done is to convince people in their millions, in their billions across the world, not only that they don't have an immune system, but they don't have an intuition any longer. An intuition, ever since I was very young, I always had a sense that the world was more to the world than society was telling me that there was. It had more depth to it and more mystery to it. And it was more enigmatic, unfathomable. I was aware of these concepts even though I didn't understand them. But I knew that the world wasn't as it was portrayed largely by society and the structures within that society. And I think that's intuition in some way. And I think I've always been an intuitive person. And maybe at some point in my life, I lost confidence in myself. That ability to trust my intuition, well, that is well and truly back now. Intuition tells you nearly every time everything that you need to know. And I would ask the question, I say this to everybody. I say to them, do you not think that something doesn't feel right? Forget about what we're told, forget what the media's saying, forget what other people are saying, forget what I'm saying on here. Forget all that. Just look and feel. Does it feel right? Or does it feel like there's something up? So that's the first one, intuition. Very, very difficult to pin down what that is. The second one is history. We would not be in this situation if enough of us had even the merest understanding of history, of recent history. This I find incredibly shocking. It is not only a failure of our education system, but a failure of our societies and the individuals within it to not learn from history. If you don't learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. Mark Twain said, history may not repeat exactly, but it rhymes. And he's right. And I see the rhymes now ringing louder and louder and louder as each day goes by. And the reason why we need to pay attention to history is because whilst ages change and eras are defined by different trends, as human existence and goes through different challenges. Human nature itself doesn't change at all. And human beings are addicted to power. And if you create, or if you allow your systems to be corrupted by power, where the individual sovereignty is undermined and ceded to the state, then bad things are going to happen. And they end in nightmarish scenarios, like the Holocaust, like the Great Terror under Stalin, like the atrocities perpetrated by Mao in China, and who go on and on and on. These are all very, very, very recent examples that we should be paying attention to. In fact, not even paying attention to. We should be, in any sane world and in any sane individual, that we're not just paying attention to what went on recently, not too far away from us as well, in Europe in very recent times, but dedicating a lot of time and awareness to learn. These things didn't just happen. These events didn't just happen. You don't suddenly go from millions of people not being killed to millions of people being killed in a heartbeat. That doesn't happen. It happens slowly, insidiously, with the compliance of millions of people. Which brings me to the next point, which is the human condition and self-knowledge. And again, we would not be in this position that we are in right now if enough people had enough understanding, and it needs to be a base understanding of the human condition. And alongside that, some detailed introspective work on themselves. What does this mean? Well, what I've learned now is that, and I've seen it, most people, if they were living in Germany in the late 1930s, well, the mid to late 1930s, not only would a lot of them not only just be compliant and in the persecution of the Jews, many of them would actively be involved. I see that now. And if anyone wants to try and deny that, when they're going out, wearing a mask, doing things that they don't want to do simply because they're told to do it, things that are going against their conscience, you need to think really, really deeply about this. And again, the human condition, the capacity for malevolence is in each human soul. The capacity for doing good is, and the capacity for genius is as well. But the capacity to be corrupted and to embark on a path towards a tyrannical dystopia, which is perpetrated by individuals in their millions. Hitler couldn't just do what he did. Stalin couldn't just do what he did. Mao couldn't just do what he did. He needed henchmen, he needed accomplices, and he needed millions of ordinary men and women to go against their conscience and let the devil that resides within rule their hearts. And once you realise that that devil does reside in you, you'll make sure that he never will rule your heart, and you will say no. And that's introspection, that's self-awareness, and it's an acknowledgement that you do have the capacity, if you don't have the awareness, to be reeled in to doing the work of the devil. The next one, curiosity. We lack curiosity in our age. We really do. Too many people have answers, not enough people have questions. The ones who have answers tend to be the most ideologically possessed ones. The most interesting people I find, the most humble people, are the ones who have questions, who ask questions. And it's knowing that we don't know 1/trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of what we don't know. We don't know anything. I don't know anything. I pretend like I know something. I don't know anything at all. When compared to, I know things, but when compared to what I could know and what there is to know, I know nothing. So I'm curious to learn. I'm curious about the world. But we live in a world that is, there's the work, eat, sleep, play at the weekend, work, eat, sleep, play at the weekend. That template, that pattern, kind of like doctrinal way of living almost. And again, when you scrape beneath the surface of what kind of societal conditioning gives to us, go to school, go to uni, get a job, get a promotion. Doesn't matter you screw over to get it in many cases, but just get that promotion. Status, accumulate wealth, accumulate things. Get a dog, have kids, save up for your pension, then you can enjoy your life. You might be dead by then. But that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But life has more nuances and complexity to it, and there's so much to learn. And I see it in so many of my conversations that I have with people, that I think maybe that we're so lacking in purpose and meaning as a 21st century society at the moment, that many people seem to just acquiesce to this way of life. Yet at the same time, so many are stressed, so many are unhappy, so many are lacking in meaning. Maybe they don't know why. And I think it starts with having a curiosity about the world. And not about even curiosity about the world, but a curiosity about ourselves. Get curious about who we are. You know, understanding our nature and understanding when we really learn about ourselves, what our strengths and weaknesses are, what we're good at, what we're not good at, what our values are. Learn what we can do with our lives and then do it. Discover our inner genius. That's the curiosity I'm talking about. And the next one here is travel, which is kind of linked to curiosity, because I'm curious when I travel. But again, that old saying, that old trope, they've gone to Thailand to find themselves. You don't find yourselves in Thailand. You don't find yourself going on a backpack, even if you're by yourself. You can do if you want. Maybe you just need peace, get away from everyone, and maybe some people do, I'm sure. But that kind of, what is it? That idea that we have to go to some far-flung place to discover who we are. Someone explain to me how that works. I don't understand that, because to understand ourselves and our own condition, and to really be deeply introspective, all we need is ourselves and a degree of honesty. Real, brutal, raw honesty. We don't need to go to some far-flung place. Having said that, travel is my next one on the list, because going to places, experiencing different environments, different countries, different cultures, absorbing ourselves in the history and the cultures that are there, talking to the people. Cliche, travel broadens the mind, broadens the horizon. Absolutely, it does. My interest in 21st century European history was triggered by visits to Germany and Eastern Europe. And I wanted to know, when I went to Auschwitz, I'm going to do a lot more content on this kind of thing. When I went to Auschwitz and I saw the scale of it, and it was the scale of it that fascinated me, really. Shocked me, yeah, but fascinated me. I thought, how could this happen? How could it happen? Now, that wouldn't have been, that feeling wouldn't have resonated, wouldn't have come up in me if I hadn't actually gone and seen it. But how many people for the holidays, 2 weeks in Spain every year? I know no one can travel at the moment. And there's nothing wrong with this either. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, if you want to go to 2 weeks in Spain, lie on a sunbed and, drink, pint of John Smith's and have fry-ups every day with a load of other English people. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is it's not really, does it give an insight into something different than what we're accustomed to? I'm so glad, God knows whether I'll ever be able to go abroad again, but I'm so glad I've been to the amount of countries, the number of countries that I have been to, because it does give you a richness in appreciation of human life. The other thing is books as well. And why do we read books? Surely we read books because we're curious. Are we curious because we want to learn? We want to learn because we know we've got room to learn. So books, there's lots of, and I say this as someone who, I've read in my time, but I've not read enough. Society, an appreciation of wider society. A famous quote from the 80s, Margaret Thatcher said, "There's no such thing as society," and she divided opinion. Margaret Thatcher, I'm not going to go into politics here, but I disagree with her. I disagree with that. There is no such thing as society. Wrong. Absolutely there is. Except right now there isn't. There should be such a thing as society, but a society is an appreciation of community, it's an awareness of, or trying to show some kind of awareness for the different existence and lives of other people, and the knowledge that our world and our ability to be free and to have choice and to be safe is, and I don't mean safe from, I don't mean that in terms of the stay safe. I mean safe from tyranny. It relies on an ability to connect with other people outside our immediate families and to build communities, build societies in that way. Now, the way I see it is that when we make a decision in our lives, there's three angles to consider, three aspects to it. It's like, what are we going to get out of it ourselves? And how's it going to affect us? How's it going to affect those immediately around us? So maybe our partners, kids, family. And how's it going to affect wider society, the world? And I think that's that third one that we are large numbers of people seem to be oblivious to. Society is divided not only amongst those who are awake and asleep, but amongst those who don't give a fuck. Apologies for the language. They don't give a fuck about other people and the suffering that's going on. They don't care. They've got their mortgage. They can pay their mortgage. They might have their job. They might have their furlough. They might have their pension. They don't give a toss about other people's suffering. And it is absolutely horrific. And a society that was more connected, there would still be people like that. But there wouldn't be in such large numbers as there are at the moment. So that's the other one. It's having an awareness of society. I mean, you only need to look for those who are awake. We can see what damage is being done to children. And we can see how old people are being abandoned. And it's upsetting, to say the least. The next one, where are we? Risk profile. Risk. Again, I think one of the cleverest aspects of the indoctrination, the relentless indoctrination of the last 12 months, is to convince people that only one risk exists. Bollocks. Bollocks. We're risking living. I could have an unknown heart condition now, croak it in the middle of doing this video. I could. We take on a risk every time we step out the door. I'll cook tea later. I'll be taking a risk. I could burn my hand. Anything could happen. There's risk everywhere, all the time. It's part of living. And part of the stoicism that I thought, particularly us British people had, was the ability to acknowledge that risk. And I think the ones who are most awake to what's going on, they have a greater risk profile. One of the interesting observations that I've noticed is a lot of the more awake people are the ones who aren't working in the public sector, the ones who haven't had jobs for life, the ones who have, the strivers, the ones who build businesses up from the ground. There seem to be a lot of people who are involved in the kind of like holistic therapies, the mindfulness type of genre as well. But regardless, it's the people who have taken massive risks to build up maybe a business from scratch, because that does take a massive amount of risk, and the ones who are able to balance risk against reward, because increasingly now I'm seeing the phenomena of so many people having lost their or being confused by their relationship with what risk actually is. So that's it, risk profile, risk management. The next one I put is psychology. And again, the ones who are most awake, they tend to be, small business owners, people who've broken out of the system. And I think in order to sell a product or a service, in order to build up a relationship with customers, you need to tap into psychology, human psychology. Selling is psychology, and it's about providing value. That's what selling is, providing us enough value, make yourself, your brand or your product and service indispensable. And it gives you, I think it gives a bit of an understanding into building on what I was talking about before, the human condition, psychology, the psychology. And once you start getting deep into psychology and then connecting it with other things like philosophy, history, sociology, all these things, you start to build up a picture, and all these things give you perspective, and you suddenly realize that everything is not what it seems. So psychology. The next one, suffering. Life is suffering. I've talked about this before. I don't think anybody can say they've lived a life without suffering. Surely not. Suffering takes place in life. Who learns from the suffering and who doesn't? And when I say learning, I mean take meaning from. Do we take meaning from suffering, or do we choose to take meaning from the suffering? Or do we choose to be defeated by it? Do we choose to become a victim because of it? I've done those things in the past, absolutely. I don't anymore, but I have done in the past. And this is a difficult one, but I did a video, can't remember what it was called, a few videos ago, three reasons to hang in there, and one of them was derive meaning from the suffering. I know a lot of people are suffering at the moment, but it gives that opportunity. I go into a lot more detail in the video to really get deep into your own personal sense of meaning and purpose and direction in life, and that's the opportunity that the suffering gives to us. But if we choose not to learn and to derive meaning from suffering, are we really going to become more enlightened? And that's what suffering is. Suffering allows us to become more enlightened. And the last one is courage. Alongside authenticity, courage is the trait that is most lacking in society at the moment. The two are linked, because if you are truly authentic, you're probably courageous as well. The courage to say, no, I want to break out the system. The courage to say, no, this is what I think. The courage to stand up to ideologues. The courage to not comply with rules that you know are wrong. The courage to stand up for the children. The courage to do what's right when you know. The courage to do the hard thing. The courage to take the more difficult path. The courage to take the lonely path. This is the most important of all. And those who are bravest are the most awake. And you'll know these people. Actually, you won't know these people. You won't recognize them if you're not awake yourself. But if you're awake, you'll see it in other awake people, because they're brave. So there we go. They are the 10 reasons why those who are awake are awake. I hope this provided some value to you, and please let me know what you think in the comments. Share this video with those who you think will relate, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.